Welcome in. This is your Wednesday live chat for this week's AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. The next hour or so, that's your time. Any questions, comments, concerns, throw them in the chat right now. While you're there, might as well hit the like button. Might as well make sure you're subscribed. That's all handy dandy stuff. And of course, this is indeed brought to you by Jock Market, which is stock market DFS. I'll talk more about them in just a few minutes, but know that there is a power hour tonight. That's where Joe Idonia and myself go through the entire market. It's fascinating. It's fun. There's seemingly a lot of money to be made as well, just a different type of way to play fantasy. And I'm really enjoying what those guys are doing. But let's just not waste any more time. Let's just jump right into this because Scott B posted this comment 2 hours ago, which is much appreciated, Scott, for, you're not even punctuality. You're very early, my friend. Says, good afternoon, Rick. Thinking about rolling with Kisner considering his recent form. I heard he mentions his dislike of POA. Do the stats show this to be the case, or is he still decent on them? Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you my website, and everything that you see will come from my site, RickRunGood.com. This is the Holy Grail. So this is where you can go through and you can add in Poana as your putting surface, and we can look for Kevin Kisner, and we can just straight up see his results on the surface and see if this actually matches what he's saying, and not really. He's been pretty good, although he's a very good putter. Let me check something real quick. So he, in 39 rounds on Poana, he is gaining nearly a quarter of a stroke putting per round. If we look at his entire, or I guess we should just look at his other surfaces, he's a little bit better, near a third of a round. If we get rid of the bent/POA hybrid, okay, he is actually statistically worse on Poana. So he's not necessarily wrong there, but he's still an above average putter. He has still gained strokes on the surface in 5 of his last 6. So while Kevin Kisner is correct, he's also wrong. It's weird. It's one of those things that, we can both be right on. Any update on Daniel Berger's injury? No, and we're not going to get one. Right. So for what Brandon is talking about, don't panic, Berger backers. But Daniel Berger in the final round last Saturday was on PGA Tour Live, and he hit a couple of shots early in his round, and he immediately was kind of grabbing his back, and he was walking very gingerly. The good news is he finished that round. He was 1 under. It was a great score at the South Course at Torrey Pines on Saturday, and we haven't heard anything about it since. He was not asked about it in his press conferences or in any media that he did before the event. So I don't think we are going to get an update. The idea that he's here and we haven't heard anything is probably pretty good. So I'm not taking really anything from that last week. Also, this tends to reinforce my idea of needing like range reports, right? We need range reports. We need to know how many holes these guys played this week, what time they showed up at the range on Tuesday, what time they left, etc., etc. Craig says, thanks for your awesome content. Thank you. Can we do a deep dive on Minwoo Lee? Sure. So I've written Minwoo Lee up a couple of times this week, and I think he's pretty exciting. So I'm going to pull up his Holy Grail here in just 1 second. And there is not, actually, I'm going to go to his golfer profile because there is not a lot of strokes gained data on Minwoo, but I do have his European Tour stuff. So let's see. Okay. Let's just go down to his results. So here's what we know about Minwoo. Minwoo, 51st ranked player in the field. He has played very well on the DP World Tour in the last couple of months. He has those 3 top 8 finishes in his last 5 starts. He also has that victory in the summer at the Scottish Open. The Scottish Open, if you're looking at pure official World Golf Ranking strength of field score, is basically a field that is going to be twice as difficult, twice as deep, twice as good, however you want to phrase it, twice as strong as the field that he's getting at Pebble Beach this week. Now, he has not had a lot of great PGA Tour success, but if you look at it, it's because he's coming over and playing WGCs. He's going against the cream of the crop. He did play the Pro-Am last year, was not very good from tee to green. That's the only the one measured round that he played at Pebble Beach. So I'm willing to be pretty optimistic about Minwoo this week, and I think that you should be too. It's, these guys have to come over here. They've got to kind of get their reps in, get more comfortable playing on the PGA Tour. Dustin says, hey, Rick, appreciate the content. If you had to dip below $6,500 and play somebody other than Brian Gay, who would you take a flyer on? Any love for Layman? Rhymes with Gehman. I wish it was as easy as that. I wish it was as easy as a rhyming game. That'd be fun. Yeah, outside of Brian Gay, under 65, I believe, was the question. It's pretty scary. And Brian Gay's, Brian Gay's scary as well. I'll give you a really deep flyer. And he just got added to the field today. Tommy Two Gloves Gainey. Yeah, I think he's 6,100. He might be $6,000 by himself. There is an event. It's a non-tour professional event that's held at Pebble Beach. It is called the Pebble Beach Invitational, I believe, and I believe it is most currently sponsored by TaylorMade. He won that event a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think. And he plays a lot on the Korn Ferry Tour to various levels of success. He's missed 4 of his last 5 cuts, but I don't know. You get in late, you have a little Tommy Gainey magic at a place that you've played well at. I don't really like any of those guys, so I'll throw you a deep, deep flyer there with Tommy Gainey. Any thoughts on finishing my lineup with a scrub, Satoshi Kodaira? Yeah, I actually think I wrote up Kodaira for Odds Checker, I believe, this week. And Kodaira is fascinating just because he is so hard to really kind of predict and project and handicap. But here's the good news for Kodaira. He's a PGA Tour winner. The place that he won, Harbor Town, is, I would argue, one of the more similar courses in skill set that you could get to Pebble Beach, which is going to be kind of not necessarily having to be long off the tee, but more accurate and also playing to very small greens. So that's a check for Kodaira. Another check for Kodaira would be if you want to play the bucket game, which I don't always love to play the bucket game, but that like 125 to 150 yards or like 100 to 125 yards tends to be more important here at Pebble Beach. And that's a really strong place for Kodaira's game. The other thing is what we saw at the Sony Open, which is the only event we've seen Kodaira here in 2022. He was phenomenal and he gained strokes across the board and he finished T12. So when you put all that together, Garrett, yes, I think, and I actually think I bet him. I think I got him at 200 to 1. I think I bet him. Crazy stuff, but I'm with you. Favorite play between 7,200 and 7,400. Okay, well, let's go to the cheat sheet here, and I'll get this loaded in. 72 to 74. So it's basically Troy Merritt up to Adam Hadwin-ish. I think the further I go in the week, Ches Reavie becomes a little bit more exciting. He is, the 4 consecutive top 25 finishes, or I guess 3 out of his last 4, but he's made 4 cuts in a row. The runner-up finish in 2018, the 16th place finish last year, the skill set that you would need around specifically Pebble Beach. It's Ches Reavie's game. Not distance, but accuracy, approach shots. That would be someone that I think is interesting. Outside of that, Sahith is pretty interesting. Sahith's probably going to play 5 weeks in a row because I think he just got a sponsor's invite to Waste Management for next week. But here we go. 48th at Sony, 33rd at the American Express, 25th at the Farmers. We're trending, right? We're trending. We are getting more comfortable on the PGA Tour, and Sahith is someone who is pretty interesting to me. Yo, Rick, how you doing? Well, I hope you are as well. After seeing Hideki and List win, have you noticed any difference with putting in the short sample size without the green reading cards? No, but that is on my list. So I've been, as you guys know, tracking kind of putting volatility over the course of the last decade or so. And we don't have much of a sample size yet because we're still getting a lot of guys who are making their first and second and third starts. But I'm hoping in the very near future to have a more official report on putting volatility in 2022 versus putting volatility in previous years. So stay tuned for that. I think we're very close to having enough data, but it is something that is on the top of my list. Hey, Rick, happy Pebbles week. Thank you. $7,300 last guy in, Pat Perez. I already have Nick Taylor, but not sure on Perez. Who would be your pivot in this range, or just drop down and grab Doc? So $7,300, similar to what I talked about. I think the best pivot is probably Sahith. I also think, should I just do the Brandon Harkins thing now? Do I just do the Brandon Harkins thing right now? Okay. Here's Brandon Harkins. He's $7,100. Brandon Harkins won on the Korn Ferry Tour last week, but it was on Wednesday, which is incredibly important because instead of having to sprint and do all the crazy stuff to get to the next tour stop, he could take his time. He was able to get to Pebble Beach early. With a 3-course rotation, you got to put in work. Fortunately for Harkins, very familiar with these courses. He is a Northern California guy who has played this event twice in the last 3-4 years, has a 15th place finish and a 28th. He also won last year that Pebble Beach Invitational that I was referring to. It's a non-tour, but it is a highly acclaimed a professional golfers event. I think Kevin Kisner has won it as well. Tommy Armour has won it a couple of times. It gets a decent field. Alex Chake, I think, finished runner-up to Brandon Harkins. So, maybe it's too much. Maybe I'm creating the narrative here, but I am super stoked for him. I'm excited for him. He's $7,100. What do you think the most popular build is going to be? Starting with 3 guys in the 9s? Not really. So if you look at kind of the ownership, it looks like that 10K range, and my mouse is tweaking out on me right now. Here we go. My 10K range, or that 10K range. So now it's only 3 golfers. It was 4, but Zalatoris, he gone. So we've got Cantlay, Berger, who I have both projected over 25%, and then Spieth, who's sub 9% at the moment. So it looks like a lot of people are opting for one of the big 2, and then going down to probably one guy in the 9s, because it's pretty spread out between Day, McNeely, Rose, Tringale, Power, and even Fitzpatrick. That's pretty even. In fact, I bet Jason Day comes in higher than 13%, which is what I'm projecting him at right now. But I think it's one of the big 2, one of the 9s. Then it probably goes down. Then you probably have to drop down to the 7s, and people are grabbing Kuchar and Mitchell. Maybe the bottom of the 7s, they're getting Pendrith and Sahith. And then you go down into the 6s, they're taking Malnati, and that's about it. So I think that build is one of the top 2, followed by pick of the litter out of the 9K, then down to 7,500 or something like that. Rick, who has the top 3 annoying putting routines on tour? Which routine do you somewhat like and could possibly emulate to help your own putting out? So clearly the most annoying are Cantlay and Horschel. Cantlay does the toe tap for an hour, but it works for him, so he should keep doing it. Billy Horschel sneaks up on it, which is kind of bonkers. I think my favorites are when Rory started doing the thing with no practice strokes. I don't know if he still does that, but he was at some point last year, he was not doing any practice strokes. He was reading the putt. He was getting up there. He was hitting it. I like that. I think a lot of times, especially amateurs like myself, we get so into the practice stroke, and it's hard to recreate on the actual stroke when there's a ball there, and just not doing the practice stroke relies a bit more on feel. I think it would help most guys out. I think you should at least try it. Any 7.5 to 8.5K guys that have grown on you in the last week? Okay, so that range is about right here. So Mitchell to Hoagie, who have grown on me. It's very important. He said grown on me. Lucas Glover, I think, has continued to grow on me. Someone who can rely on hitting a lot of greens, who can rely on the approach play, who has actually putted better as of late. I think he has grown on me, and I started kind of mildly warm on him. I think I'm heating up there. Outside of that, that's probably about it. I don't think I've grown. I mean, Hoagie's fine, right? I think we know what we're going to get out of Hoagie. How many golfers in the $40 range on Yahoo would you use in one lineup? I do not know who is $40 on Yahoo. I don't play on Yahoo, so sorry about that. Can you do a deep dive on Christian Bezadenhout? I know Mark sang his praises earlier, but I would love an objective view to support his biased eye test. Sure. So the objective view out of Bezadenhout is basically, it's still pretty optimistic. So I'll pull him up here on the golfer profile. So I have 395 rounds on him in my database. Of course, not all of them. In fact, the minority of them are PGA Tour rounds. But if you start going back, you'll notice a couple of things. Last year, even when he was having great success, he was kind of this short game wizard, right? He was gaining a lot of strokes around the green. He was gaining a lot of strokes with his putter. And to my argument, he was kind of a bit reliant in that aspect. Now you fast forward to 2022, and you're starting to see what I think is actually a more sustainable statistical profile. Whereas last 3, he's gained strokes on approach The last 3, he's gained off the tee in 2 of them. His putting has been closer to 0. I think there's a path to Bezaden Hote to basically continuing the ball striking success and then having one of those ceiling putting weeks that we have seen so frequently from him. I think that I'm fairly optimistic about him moving forward. It's a pretty decent profile. Can you and Joe push Jock Market to add Champions Tour, DP Tour, LPGA markets after the Super Bowl? Interesting. Yeah. So this is probably a good time to do the Jock Market segment. Yeah, sure. I can pass that information along. I don't see why not. If you have never played on Jock Market or you don't know what it is, it's stock market DFS, where you can literally buy and sell shares of golfers. Now you can actually short shares of golfers. And I should be clear, really other athletes as well. It's not just golf, but that's obviously my focus for it. And tonight is a very important night because it's Wednesday night. It's the day before the tournament. And you can now bid on shares of golfers. You can do it right now. It's open. So this IPO is open until about 9 o'clock Eastern time tonight. And then if you're one of the high bidders for those golfers, those shares are going to be added to your portfolio. And then based on the finishing position, there are guaranteed payouts. So to put this into perspective, it would have been last Tuesday, Luke List sold for $4.98 a share. And by winning, he got the full $25 a share payout. So that's a $20 per share profit on Luke List. So if you had 10 shares of Luke List, you made $200 on him. There is no requirement to have a minimum or a maximum number of golfers in your portfolio, which is nice. So if there's just one guy you're interested in, or if there's 30 guys you're interested in, you can have that in your portfolio as well. And I think tonight, especially with the top-heavy nature of the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, I think we're going to get some expensive guys at the top. There's going to be a lot of value everywhere else. If you use the code RICK when you sign up, that's up to a $50 deposit bonus. It's the best bonus available. And the data that I just showed you is available for free on my website, RickRunGood.com. Hey, Rick, turns out that I love Wednesday to Saturday golf. What about you? Yes, I've said probably countless times at this point, I think they should run Wednesday to Saturday the entire football season. So basically the fall until this week, right? The week before, no, I guess not this week, until the conference championships. And then Pebble Beach can be on Sunday. Waste Management can be on Sunday because quite frankly, that's kind of its own spectacle, right? The fact that it's always on Super Bowl Sunday. So I'm cool with that. And then we move forward with Thursday through Sunday. I loved it last week. I actually just think it's a little weird to only have one event in the schedule that's Wednesday to Saturday. So you have a short week on one end of it and a long week on the other when we could just do this right for the entire fall. Hey, Rick, have you decided who you prefer in the $9,000 range on DK? You loved all of them on Monday. Yeah, I think that's probably still an accurate statement. I think if I had to narrow it down, so I'm fairly bullish about Jason Day longer term, and this is a prime spot for him. I think with what I believe the ownership on Maverick McNeely is going to be, coming in around 20%, I can be okay not having McNeely this week. Am I thrilled about it? No. Is there a chance I get burned? Yes. But kind of game theory, I could be fine without McNeely. Pretty bullish on Rose and Tringale. Always bullish on Power, but I think just the way it's shaping up where it's weird. I like Power so much that I don't need to really force him here. I can go with Tringale or Rose, guys that I think might just be one-off peaks and trying to catch the peak as opposed to just rolling out Seamus Power. So, I'm okay without Power, even though I love him. I'm okay without McNeely. And then Tringale, Rose, and Day are probably my 3 favorites. If Fitzpatrick burns me, fine. If either of the Kevins burn me, fine. I'll live. This one. Lincoln, great question, Lincoln. Lincoln says, Rick, how's Oliver? Any plans? Okay, so first of all, Oliver is my dog. He's a Dachshund Yorkie. He is a dream come true. First of all, I don't know if I even mentioned this. We had a little bit of a health scare with Oliver. Luckily, all good, very healthy as he's ever been. He's perfect in every way. So thank you, Lincoln, for bringing that up. Any plans to do a weighted DFS points gained statistic similar to your weighted strokes gained? Yes, Lincoln. So this is a very good question. I don't know how many people realize this, but there is always a lot going on behind the scenes of RickRunGood.com. The database is constantly becoming more and more robust. And what you have to realize with golf stats are there's the PGA Tour as its own source, but when you get into like fantasy stuff, these are different sources. And what I've been spending a lot of time on recently and over the last couple of years is combining those sources so that I can essentially do what you're describing, Lincoln, which is start doing weighted everything, which I think is so much more important in golf than maybe other sports. And you'll see it in other sports too, right? Like if LeBron scores, maybe LeBron's a bad example. If the 49ers score 30 points against the Bengals or the Bills, that would probably be more impressive than them scoring 30 points against the Jets, right? So that's kind of like a weighted situation. With how different every course is and every field is, there needs to be weighted X, Y, and Z to really help provide context for how good these golfers are playing. And it's similar to like March Madness when you get to common opponents, like, oh, both of these guys played this course on this day. That you can kind of compare those guys against each other. But what if they never played each other? What if they never played the same courses? What if they never played the same opponents? So long story short, Lincoln, yeah, I'm on it. And thank you for asking about Oliver. He's the man. Oh, I kind of lost my spot. The way the YouTube chat, it jumps around, so I'm trying to hang here. Okay. Which bet do you prefer this week? Streelman top 40 or Rose top 20? Probably Rose top 20. Again, if Streelman's going to continue this and burn me, fine. But and I am not a Justin Rose guy. If you guys have been following for a long time, this is because he has gotten much more consistent, much more sustainable in his play recently. I'm very, very optimistic. The profile that we're seeing in the advanced metrics from Justin Rose right now are maybe some of the best he's had in a couple of years. So I think we've got to roll with it. I answered the one part of this question before, Jared, but the opposite side, who is someone that you're not as high on? I think it's McNeely, just because, like, hey, McNeely and Fitzpatrick. You know, Fitzpatrick, there was an argument to be made on Monday that he was $9,200. Sorry, I'm just checking something. Okay, sorry. That he was very mispriced just because of the official World Golf Ranking stuff and kind of his pedigree. But we haven't seen him since the Hero. If he burns me, he burns me. He doesn't have a lot of great history around Pebble Beach. And then McNeely, we're at McNeely like saturation right now, right? Everybody's going to play McNeely. We get it. I love the guy. I don't need to play him at his home course for, all the ownership. I'll just take a pass. Unrelated to this week, I know you like Rory, Victor, and Morikawa. If you had to pick, who's your favorite? I mean, just like to root for or whatever, like Victor. Yeah, that's fine. I'm cool saying that. They're all great guys. Looking at past leaderboards, it seems to me that more experienced golfers seem to do better here. Have you noticed the same, or am I reading too much into it? I haven't done a whole lot of analysis on experience, but it would kind of make sense. This event, it is kind of sticky in terms of course history, right? And I would argue that these courses, do I want to make this argument? Yeah, I think I do, are more similar to each other than the three that we got in the American Express. And the American Express is, that it's just huge volatility. And while a 3-course rotation here is also going to create volatility, because they're so similar, you have guys with just elite sticky course history. So it would make sense that experience kind of matters a little bit, and playing here and getting comfortable, especially because you have to get comfortable on multiple courses. I could see it. I don't have any numbers to back that up, but I could understand that. Hey, Rick, chiming in to say that I fell in love with the golfer profile page on the site this week. Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I've been making a lot of, here it is. I've been making a lot of updates to it. And there's, as always, going to be a lot of updates to it. But I appreciate that. He says, feeling really confident about a 6 of 6. Smash the like button, folks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I know he's just missed a cup, but what are your thoughts on Snedeker? Also, McCarthy, I feel like both could post well here. It's really hard for me to say a guy who, has won this event multiple times like Brad Snedeker isn't going to play well here, but I'm just not excited at all. This is a stretch of golf for him that is usually very, very good. He's won the Farmers multiple times. He's won this event multiple times, but he's not that guy. He's not that guy anymore. And if he shows up out of the blue and plays well here, fine. And we said that last week, right? Like I'm okay with being burned, but look at this. He has one top 15 in 9 months, right? Dating back to Valspar. And it's a lot of losses off the tee. It's a lot of losses on approach. The putter, which is always his strength, is still okay. It's not great. It's not like we've seen in the past where every week he's gaining 4, 5, 6 strokes. We're not seeing that anymore. And when you remove a guy's kind of superpower, I think you're in big trouble. And it's fine. Snedeker's had an amazing career, and he's going to pop a couple times here and there, but it's probably not going to be with my backing. So this is an interesting comment about Seamus Power. Any credibility to something I read on this course trio does not suit his game, specifically POA putting. The problem that we have with Seamus is he's been around a lot longer than people realize, right? Because it's just since July where he's been now full-time on the PGA Tour, playing really, really well, got that win, and people are talking about him. But look at this. I mean, he has been around since 2016, 17, and he was kind of just a tour average player, slightly better. And then at the start of 2021, boom, we strapped a rocket ship to his back and he's up and to the right. Like that's what's going on with Seamus. So when you start looking at previous years, and you can look at his stats here year by year, he's not that guy anymore. So it's really hard to say what could have happened in 2020, 2019, 2018 is giving any level of credence to what's going to happen in 2021, 2022 and beyond, because he's not that guy anymore. He's just much, much better. So I'm kind of looking at him through a much smaller sample size. His POA putting numbers, they are his worst surface, but he's better than tour average, slightly better. So I'm continuing to be very, very optimistic about Seamus Power. With Cantlay, this is from Sheerdog, welcome Sheerdog, appearing to be the dominant golfer in this field, is it better to use him for one and done here or hold him for a place that he's even better at, like the Memorial? It's a really good conversation to have. I will never have a problem using a stud in a field where he is the guy. We saw it last week with John Rahm, right? And he got you 445,000, which you'd be pretty happy with. The idea of him being 7-1, 6.5-1, whatever he is, and a pretty big gap to everybody else is it's exciting. I think that's better than him being 18-1 in a much deeper, better field. One that we're going to get at the Memorial. One we're going to get at a major championship. One we're going to get at some of these larger invitational. I have no problem doing that. I think Andy and I talked about that on the Tuesday Scramble. That's the betting and news and story show that we do on Tuesdays. Now, actually, yesterday's Scramble was the most viewed, downloaded, whatever you want to say, watched Scramble ever. So appreciate the support. Thank you very much. We're trying to continue to grow that. There's a lot of betting content in there. There's a lot of fun in there. So I wanted to thank you guys for that as well. Can we go back to Patrick Rodgers? I'm worried. He has not particularly played well here. I'm not sure it fits his strengths, to be quite honest with you. I think a place like Torrey was better, and there's probably not a place on tour more different than Torrey than Pebble, so I will hang tight. Matthew says, prior to COVID, you guys played in a fantasy golf tournament the week of the Honda Classic. Any chance of that coming back? If so, can any chance us local South Florida viewers can get in on the event? Yeah, that was called the DFS Open. And things were never the same after that. That's like we flew back and 3 days later, the world shut down. That was like that time. Things have never been the same. I have no idea. I'm not in charge of this. You know who could be or who was in charge of this? Joe Idoni. So if you want to come to the Power Hour tonight and ask Joe if he wants to set this thing up again, I'd be happy to go. I just know it is a massive headache and huge undertaking to put on a golf outing of that size for people who are flying in from all over the country. So I hope so, Matthew. I hope that there is a time in which the DFS Open returns to South Florida or anywhere, but I will not be the one to plan it, unfortunately. But bug Joe at TourPix. Go tweet him. Put enough pressure on him. Maybe he'll do it. All right. Can we run a new custom model this week? Yeah, that's fine. All right. Let's do it. I've got the custom model right. I don't have it up. Let's try this. So the custom model. This is on RickRunGood.com. You can choose any number of rounds, any stats that you want, and you can see the results. All right. I'm just going to clear everything because I don't want to be tainted by what I did earlier in the week. I can clearly see that I did the last 30 rounds. Let's go a little bit more recent. Let's go 24. This is what I would prefer to do. All right. Let's do something different. Let's do a combination of these two buckets. Let's do 20 on 50 to 125 and 20 on 125 to 150. Let's then take our remaining 60. And I want to split it up a couple of different ways. I want to do 20 on distance, which people are going to be like, Rick, I thought you said distance doesn't matter. It always matters. It just matters more in your second shot here. And then let's do a weighted, this is going to be fun. A weighted strokes gained total. Yeah? All right, let's do that. So let's say approach is important. Let's go with, so I have 40 left. Let's go with 20 on approach. 10 off the tee, 10 putting. That is a weighted strokes gained metric. So now we will sort by value, and we will see that my number one golfer is, oh boy, Austin Eckroat. Austin Eckroat. Are we going to have to do the deep dive on Austin Eckroat? I only have 44 rounds on him, so it could be sample size concerns, but let's see. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, see, this is his last 24 rounds go back pretty far because that's measured rounds. So his last 24 rounds date back to July, which he was phenomenal on approach, pretty darn good off the tee. That's what I weighted pretty heavily there. Must be good out of those buckets. Wow, was not expecting to see that name. Always fun when we do that. Cantlay number 2, Chan Kim number 3. I imagine that's the same thing, where his 24 rounds go back they could go back a year. John, wow, when you start going into the buckets, there are so many value guys. John Merrick, Robert Garrigus. You can't actually play these guys, right? The notables were kind of Berger, Hayden Buckley, Chris Kirk, Mav McNeely, Lonto Griffin. Yeah, you start running into a lot of sample size issues, and the buckets are, you can be good in those buckets, but you might not be a great golfer. So interesting. Wow, that was fun. All right. Oh, I'm honored. Jay-Z in the chat. Wow. My goodness. I'm your main man? Wow. Okay. My main man, Rick, off to a good start in one and done. Of course you are. Should Hova play someone like Day or Rose, or do a brother gotta go a bit more off the board? Well, Jay, thank you very much for the question. I would say just do you. Go with Rose. Go with Day. You're out in front. Keep front running. Those are guys that you're not necessarily dying to use in other places, and you're probably catching them at a really good time. No problem going with one of those. Thanks for all your contributions to music. Jay Roberts says, Rick, you're the freaking man. Hey, thanks. Is Cantlay an autoplay this week? Also, can you do a deep dive on Joseph Bramlett? Yeah, did he miss the cut last week? I feel like he burned everybody. Or did he? No, maybe he played well. Yeah, let's do the deep dive on Bramlett first because the Cantlay thing is in a vacuum. Yes, he's an autoplay, but when you're starting to think about game theory and whether you want to be a part of that, it's hard for me to really say. But here's Joseph Bramlett, off the tee, very good. Everywhere else, leaves a lot to be desired. I would have some concerns this week. Bramlett is, for lack of a better term, he is a bull in a china shop, right? He has got, he's just going to bang the hell out of the ball, go find it, and hit it again. And I believe that these courses require just a hair more finesse and I am not all that excited about Brahma. I've answered a couple of questions about Kadira, so I'm just going to move on. Talked about that guy. Going to move on. Will you be at the Waste Management Phoenix Open? Would love a meet and greet. I may have a suite on 16 as well. Well, Swanky, email me. That might help my decision if I'm in a suite on 16. Oh my goodness. I don't know yet. So I'm trying to get to Riviera. I could, maybe I'll make the drive. I don't know. Email me. Who knows? I'll go to Phoenix. It was really great meeting a lot of you last week. I was stunned that there were people who live out in the world. Like, the internet's a weird place, who would come up and say, hey, really enjoy your stuff. Like, it was cool to meet people in real life. I put some faces to names that I hadn't before, and it was cool. I mean, the internet's a weird place that I can speak into a camera, and then when I finally go out in the public, people say hello. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's crazy. Email me about that suite. We'll talk about it. Oh boy. I've answered a lot of these. This is kind of an interesting question from Biggie Balls. Do you advise that sometimes just biting the bullet on a number that you don't like if you like the golfer? I love Rose this week, but I only have access to 20 or 22, which I don't love. Biggie Balls, as usual, you are providing much, much value to this live stream, and I appreciate you. You are 100% correct. If you are a recreational bettor, which I imagine all of you watching fall into that category, myself included, right? My income is not I'm not doing this professionally, right? Like, we are all recreational. Don't worry about a couple of points on the numbers. If your guy wins at 18 and other people got it at 25, who cares, right? If you're doing this more seriously and you have the ability to kind of shop it, and you have the ability to kind of maybe run some models, and you say, hey, 18-1, he's not a value, but 24-1, he is. And because I'm betting 1,000 times over and over and over again, I'm going to take my small edges. That's fine. I imagine if you're listening to this and I throw myself into this category, that does not matter. Bite the bullet, take the number if you like the guy. A couple questions about Minwoo Lee. Answer those. Oh, yeah, maybe I should not have called them burger backers because the old back injury. Yeah, sorry about that. And I'm not saying there's a back injury. Do not tweet me. I just saw what you saw on PGA Tour Live. I have no other information about it. What does this question even mean? Good afternoon. I was wondering how renewed the action area you are. For example, Will is rolled out as inactive. Do you react to this ownership reflection right away, or do you still rely on your model? Okay, that got better as I started to read it. I don't really know what you're getting at, but yeah, I mean, listen, when there was only 4 guys in the $10,000 range, and one of them lost in a playoff last week, and then he withdraws on Tuesday, you have to react to it. So whether that was putting in a wager on some of the other guys, or like, I would almost, I know this is like super scary. Like, I'm maybe more inclined to play Jordan Spieth now that Will Zalatoris is out. And I'm maybe more inclined to just start in the $9,000 range now that Spieth is out, or now that Zalatoris is out, because you're really just pulling the Cantlay Berger fade. And if one of them doesn't win, you're probably on the right side of the fade. So Zalatoris leaving this event made it easier to play Spieth, and it made it easier to fade the rest of the guys. Going for a three-peat in Jock Market PGA Overall Win this week. Oh, Terry, look at you. 2 straight wins. Good luck. Who would you invest of out of Mito, Streelman, Todd Kuchar, and in what order? Obviously, it's going to depend on the price, Terry, right? Because if I told you, Streelman at $1, yeah, sure, that's fine. Probably Mito. Probably Streelman, probably Kuchar, then Todd is probably the order. But you could, it's so dependent, Terry, on their price. So I imagine I'll see you tonight in the Power Hour, because that's a conversation that when the bids start rolling in, we can provide some more information. Is Berger just playing so good these days, it would be foolish not to save him for the majors, or bigger events in a one and done? Listen, I love Berger probably more than anybody, but there's probably just like who are you going to play him over, right? Like I don't mind saving Berger, but are you going to play him over Rahm somewhere? Are you going to play him over Morikawa somewhere? Are you going to play him over maybe Dustin Johnson somewhere? I'd rather just pull the trigger here, or because he doesn't play a lot, so mostly when he plays, they are better events. But to your point, this is the weighted strokes gained power rankings. Cantlay, by far the best player in this field over the last 50 rounds. Berger, tier of his own, and then a huge gap to everybody else. I completely agree with you that Berger is being undervalued. People do not realize how good he is. Oh, this is just a nice comment. May this be a jovial day for you, and may you find an abundance of peace. And then let's go, Nick Watney. That sent those order of words has never been typed on the internet before. Congratulations, and thank you for the support. This is a interesting idea. So Chunk the Deuce says, I'm considering adding decent weights to around the green categories in a few models that I'm running. Does that make sense for some of the smaller greens where I'm reaching? No. So it's weird, right? So I've got my handy dandy notebook here. It's weird because while Pebble Beach at like 3,500 square feet on average, right? Is that right? Yes. While these are the smallest greens on the PGA Tour, or one of two, they're still easy to hit because you're basically hitting wedge into all of them. So last year, these greens were hit 68% of the time in regulation, which is about 33rd out of 51. So it's about middle of the pack. Despite them being small, they're not all that hard to hit. Now, if you go over to Spyglass, that's where the greens get really hard to hit. So only 58% on average last year, which would have been 8th out of 51, the 8th hardest greens to hit. So I think it's not that you're overthinking it. I think you're on the right track. I just think that it's a weird situation because everybody's hitting wedge into these. Tom Jacobs says, who's the best play in the 6K range and why is it Sung You'll Know? Yeah, I mean, listen, I think he's min-priced this week or $6,100. Plays out at Summerlin, playing much better, has had some okay rounds at this event, right? Like if you look past the last 2 weeks, it's not pretty, but maybe we're finding something here. I heard a stat that pro golfers make 80% of their putts 3 feet or less, and that percentage goes down to 50% when putting from 8 feet or longer. Is there a one putt stat that could be helpful this week? Probably not, but you're right. I bet you it's more than 80% inside of 3 feet. It's probably much higher than that. And yes, you are correct that it is 50% from 8 feet, but no, I don't think any of that is necessarily predictive. Oh, I might come back to that question, Chris. Let me think about that. There's a lot of good ones. He's asking about restaurants in Vegas. There's a lot of good ones. That might be a show of its own. If you're looking for pizza, it's Good Pie. The answer is Good Pie. I mean, anything at the Wynn's pretty good. God, there's Din Tai Fung. There's too many. That's a different episode. Prize picks for tomorrow, Rick. I saw your Twitter content and liked the J Day one. What are you riding with? Yeah, so I love the props, and I think for golf, they're really good and they're really exploitable. So I'll try to find that tweet for you here because I want people to get on the same page about what I'm referring to. So this is on Prize Picks. So Jason Day, his line for tomorrow is 12.5 greens in regulation, which in his last 11 rounds, he's basically hitting that 12.2. Pebble Beach, you give him a little bit of a bump. They're kind of on the easier side to hit, as we just talked about. I project him to hit about 14 greens in round one. So that's an over. I was also going into, I think you have to go Patrick Rogers under on fairways hit. So his under right now his line right now is 9. And he's been by far the worst of the guys that you can pick from in terms of fairways. He's hit less than 7 in his last 20 rounds. His history at this event, He's hit exactly nine fairways once, and every other round was worse than that. So I think if you want to go to Prize Picks and you want to pick an over on Jason Day greens in regulation, an under on Rogers fairways hit, I think that's the most logical. I'm going to be I'm working on a tool for this. I've been playing it a lot more. I'll have a more proppy kind of tool, and I'll work it into some of the stuff so that you guys can see the same database that I'm looking at. But I think those are the two to kind of get started with. I do have a code too, which is helpful for everybody. It's Rick, 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You can use my code. It would help me. I'd be very gracious for that. But I think it's very interesting. Those are the two that stuck out to me. And then I'll create some tools to help in the future. Thanks, Eli. Austin Eckroat week? Yeah, it might be. Hey, Rick, where is Coach? He's probably at home at this point. But I think we're going to get him back for first cut after the football season. Hey, Rick, what is your newest analysis tool? Man, they're always changing. I think my current favorite and current new is the power rankings, because you can take any number of rounds that you want, including, I don't know, like 1,000 of them, which is most guys' career. And you can see the statistical breakdowns for basically everybody on the PGA and European Tour and all that stuff. With the strokes gained when we have it, you can view the raw data. You can view the weighted data. This is currently, you can look at just players in the field or look at everybody. This is currently my favorite right now. This is the question that I get that is unanswerable and probably doesn't make any sense. Where do you want your guys to start? The good guys are starting at Monterey Peninsula so that they get to Pebble Beach for television on Saturday, unless there is going to be a lot of weather situations on one day. Like, it's impossible. Like, some guys are going to want to play the easier course on the easier day, start on the harder course, get it out of the way. It's impossible. Everybody's different. How did ESPN Plus manage to make featured group coverage worse at a time abandoning groups? Is that true? Well, I don't know what this is referring to. I thought the coverage has been pretty good. And they don't pay me to say that, although they should. But I thought it's been pretty good. I don't know what that means. There are a lot of questions about Daniel Berger. There are some funny comments. You guys are funny. You guys are funny. Funny guys. All right. Rick, who's going to be the winner? It's very straightforward. I appreciate the question. I will preface this by saying I obviously have no idea, but my brain has convinced myself that the best guy to bet for their number is Cameron Tringale, about 30-1. He's figuring it out. So he passes a couple of tests for me. He passes the stat test, 3 top 10s in his last 5 starts. Obviously just more and more contention over the last year. Passed the eye test, walked with the group that he was in last week on Saturday, which was the final round. John Rahm was in that group. Looked great. Went toe-to-toe with Rahm. Beat him by a shot. Was never out of his comfort zone. I think he only made 1 bogey on Saturday. So I'll be the sucker that picks the guy who's never won to win, but I think it's the guy. Good luck. You guys crack me up. I'm not going to waste everybody's time reading these. I'll just waste everybody's time laughing at them. So, interesting. Logan asked a question that I think was asked last week, and I will have a solution for this soon. So he says, is there a tool for creating the best lineup based on the betting odds to win the tournament? So what I'll do, I'm trying to think how I'm going to do this, but I'll add this to the custom model where basically I'll add a column right here that will be something like implied win equity or something like that. Because if you take the odds for a tournament, that always converts into applied win equity. And then if you put 100% of your weights on that, your value would then only be what their odds and their equity is. So then you could run lineups that say, give me the 6 golfers under $50,000 that have the highest combined win equity, and you would get a result that's like, hey, these guys add up to 18% or something like that. I'm going to write this down, Logan, because somebody asked about it last week as well. And that is something that I think is, it's always easy. It's always easy to say it's going to be easy, but I'll do this for you. Implied win ec custom model. All right, I'm on it. See that? See that? Pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Oh, what's this? Oh, Scott. Scott, you're going to make me cry here. Appreciate you, brother. So Scott has a super chat here. It says, for a new toy or a dog bone for Oliver. You are the man. That's obviously much appreciated. Thank you. All right. I'm like very happy. Scott, my brother. Thanks, brother. All right. Where was I? Seems like a long shots and favorites this week from the bets of what I'm seeing. Yeah, I think so I talked about this a little bit with Jeff Feinberg on our odds checker preview. I do kind of like the barbell approach. The barbell approach being kind of the extremes of both ends, right? If you think about a barbell, you got the weights on one side and then kind of nothing in the middle and the weights on the other side. So that would be kind of making your card with the guys up top, your burgers, your Cantlays, your super high win equity guys, and then guys 100 to 1 or deeper, right? We saw TPJ, Ted Potter Jr. Win this event. We've seen, the favorites win it as well. I do think that is a decent approach for this week, Eric. Yes. Oh. Can we do a deep dive on Windham Clark? Yeah, sure. I don't think we've had a Windham Clark conversation yet. And no good live stream goes by without a Windham Clark deep dive. So let's do the Windham Clark deep dive. Here we go. My screen. I'll tell you what. If you would have said Windham Clark's made 6 cuts in a row, I would have been surprised to find that out. I think my memory was certainly at this summertime version of Windham Clark, where he missed like 8 out of 10 cuts. So I'm a little bit surprised to see how well he's been playing as of late. He is much better on approach. Notice I did not say good on approach, but he's better than he was kind of in the summer. The putter, I do wonder if that's a bit unsustainable. He's gained 15 strokes over his last 3 tournaments. It's probably unsustainable. Those his best events ever. Yeah, I mean, basically like 2 of his best putting weeks almost ever have been here recently, which is a little bit scary, probably a little bit unsustainable. So Windham Clark won't be making my my investment list, but my goodness, it's better than I thought. Your email, Zach says, indicated there is a gap between Patrick Cantlay, Daniel Berger, and yes, correct. Will there be a better spot all year to snag an elite for one and done? Good question. If Spieth is playing well, him at one of those Texas events, he might be kind of your elite at one of these events. Let me look at the schedule. You might not get another, because who's going to play the 3M? You need like one guy who's going to be the guy. Is somebody going to play the 3M Open? Is somebody going to play the John Deere? I mean, Webb at Wyndham, maybe, depending on who else tees that up. Bryson at like Rocket Mortgage. No, I mean, Zach, it's a pretty astute observation that you might not have many other opportunities for this. And I will use this opportunity to tell you that if you go to rickrungood.com/newsletter or click the link in the description, you would have received the email that Zach was referring to, which I'm showing you on screen right now, which has a lot of little nuggets and weird stuff that hopefully you find interesting. Ronan says, curious to know when you do a weighting process for a DFS lineup, how much merit do you put on a player's DraftKings points in their scoring? Recently, much more than I used to, and I think I should probably continue to weigh it even more. We're playing a fantasy game, aren't we? Don't we care about fantasy points? If you go to the Holy Grail and you just go to the fantasy tab and you start looking through, guys that more frequently have birdie streaks or more frequently make eagles, like I think you'd be pretty surprised by the list. Guys who have bogey-free rounds, like that's the stuff that sets you apart. So yeah, I think in general, we should probably be doing more with it. Zero hype for Minwoo. Who said that? Been talking about the guy all week. Oh no, I lost my spot. Hold on. Okay. I've answered a lot of these, so I'm rolling through. Do we know which course is the hardest? Looking to bet a leader after round one, but don't want to bet those at the hardest course. So your book might be splitting them up. For example, Caesars and most books now are splitting them. So be careful. But Woody, I know that you're not subscribed to the email newsletter, because if you were, you would have seen right here the hardest course historically has been Spyglass, plays over par. The easiest course historically has been Monterey Peninsula. How much better is ESPN Plus than NBC Sports doing PGA Tour Live, and why? Well, one, it's 4 feeds instead of 1 or 2. So that's already, I guess, better by default. And what I like about ESPN Plus is if you have an Apple TV or you have a Xbox, or a Xbox. I think it's an Xbox, which doesn't make any sense, does it? But you can multicast, which means you can split your screen up into quads. So you can have all 4 feeds at once without having 4 TVs. So I think there's a couple of reasons. On a given week, what would you consider a good percentage of getting 6 of 6 through for you or for the field? Because generally the 6 of 6 rate for the field is somewhere between 5 and 10%. Really bad weeks, it'll be like 2% if the chalk doesn't get through. So if you're beating that in any stretch, you are doing well. Yes, the Netflix crews were at Torrey last week. Ooh. Favorite course on the Florida swing to go as a spectator? Probably Honda, probably PGA National. Some really good spots. They do a nice job. Yeah, I think that's the answer. In 2022, how do we not get shot tracker data from every course in multi-course events? Well, Sheerdog, they're only $1 billion company. I don't know. They'll have to figure it out later. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Let's start my Prize Picks career with a winner. Fingers crossed. It seems like most of the good putters on POA are not very good elsewhere. Thoughts? Yeah, POA is an animal of its own. So guys that putt well other places but can't putt on POA makes sense, and guys that can't putt other places but do putt well on POA makes sense. Like it's a completely different animal. And I honestly think there's a lot more randomness in putting on it. Is there a link I can go to enter my one and done picks in your contest? Yeah, it's that officefootballpool.com link that's floating around somewhere. Or just go to Office Football Pools, log into your account, and it should show up as your thing. I did the Brandon Harkins thing already, and I imagine people don't want to hear it again. But let's go. Oh, look, we're moving lines. The Rodgers line. See, this is why you got to get the lines quick. So the Prize Picks move the Rodgers line to 8.5. Oh, so good. You got to move on this stuff. I think you're still okay. But But wow, that's a big half a point. Big half a point. Is there a stat that closely coordinates the win equity that we can use in the custom model? I mean, strokes gained total is the most encompassing thing, or if you want to use weighted strokes gained total. But I'll hopefully have that win equity in there for you soon. Hey, Rick, considering the top 5 approach to one and done, and the weak field for this event, is it the last time that any of these guys? Yes, probably. Rose, McNeely, Tringali. Yeah, probably the last time they're going to be near the top of the leaderboard. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, probably. Gavin knows what's going on. Go have lunch. # mic drop. Yeah, that's the key. That's what's happening right now. So here's what we got. Lots of good stuff. 1, I appreciate you showing up. Thank you. You can do anything else with your time. You join me. I appreciate it. 2, I'll be doing a Twitter space tonight. Twitter spaces or Twitter space if it's just singular. Twitter space tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can come and vocally ask questions, say comments, do whatever you want. Additionally, there is the Jock Market Power Hour tonight at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. So you can join for Jock Market related items there. That'll be a blast. Also, I'll be on CBS Sports HQ tonight. I think that's live. It'll be like 7:40 Eastern. Also, I might have scheduled this a bit too tight. I'll be on VSiN at 8 p.m. Eastern. I think I scheduled them a little bit too tight, but we're going to find out one way or another. I love talking about golf, and I appreciate you guys showing up. Have a great lunch. Go pet a dog. See ya.